Welcome back to another new episode. Thank you to our sponsors, Ops Marketing, Traver Connect, Parts Edge, and Dynatron Software. Check them out. They're going to increase your bottom line. Coming up this week, have a seat, get out a notebook. You're going to need it. Scott Joseph, CEO of J&L Marketing and owner of 3 Honda stores, is about to teach you how automotive changes lives. Welcome back, everybody, to the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. We're excited to have with us our guest today, Scott Joseph, CEO of J&L Marketing. Scott, welcome.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's good to have you with us. I know you just came off of a very successful business bourbon and cigars event. For those that don't know what that is, or don't know where you came from, actually, if they've been under a rock for the last few years, let everybody know who Scott Joseph is.
Well, I am love the car industry. I started in auto. Still, the majority of our business is in auto. Started off, I dropped out of school. I'm gonna take you way back.
All right.
So my dad was a very successful general manager for the Jeff Weiler organization, mainly out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's where we were living. And he eventually became a general manager, got promoted to become a general manager, and started running Jeff's Green Tree Toyota store, which is in Clarksville, Indiana, which is right across the river from Louisville, Kentucky. And as I'm in high school, I'm begging him, let me sell cars. Of course, I was a lot attendant at the time. Back then it was lot boy, lot attendant now.
Yeah.
Washing cars, doing all that, and eventually went on to the University of Louisville and continued to bug my dad. Man, I want to sell cars, because I wanted to follow in his footsteps, because basically I saw how our life had changed when he got into the auto industry. He's extremely good. I think at one point he was in the top 10, ranked nationally for top salespeople. Back then, it was Lincoln Mercury's back in the late 70s. So, if anybody can remember that, or is old enough to remember the gas crunch of the 70s and the size of those Lincolns back then, you couldn't fit them into your house. They were bigger than most living rooms. So, right. It wasn't an easy time to sell those, but he did very well. And then as he went into Weiler and got promoted up, but long story short, I just wanted to get into the industry. I didn't like school. One day he was away on a 20 group, a 3-day trip with my mom out in California. And I had called up the Chevy store, which was Jeff's flagship store up in Cincinnati at the time. And I wanted to sell cars. And they asked me, well, when can you get up here for an interview? And I said, today. So I got in my car, drove up about an hour and a half, met with a guy named Stu Luganbuehl, which was the finance manager. He was becoming a sales manager at their Chrysler Plymouth store up there. It just had not happened yet. And he was interviewing me for a position there. And he hired me on the spot. I took the job. I went home. I packed my bags. I dropped out of school, moved to Cincinnati, and started selling cars.
Did they know who you were?
Oh yeah, I leveraged that. I mean, that's the only reason I got the interview that quick, and probably the only reason I got the job.
I love it.
Yeah, Dad was their top GM. He was one of their top. Him and another guy, Jim Hadley, always battled out for the top 2 spots in terms of sales. Mm-hmm. Dad quickly ran Jeff's most profitable store at the time, in the Toyota store. And then, so I definitely, I grew up with these people.
Yeah.
I was the little kid going to Jeff would give us first row wrestling tickets for the WWF. Back then it was WWF.
Yes,
and,
sir.
I grew up idolizing these guys. So, when I was a lot attendant, I'm watching sales training tapes. That was my lunch. So every day, I was the only one in the room watching those, by the
Yeah.
way. I had to dust them off.
Right.
No one else would watch them. I'm watching that. So I'm in my mind taking that job. I'm like, man, I can do this. This is not a problem. I'm going to show these guys. I'm going to do better than my dad. And then, reality hit very soon. I got out there and I was like, first month or two, I was like, man, I don't know what the shit I'm doing. this is hard. I was 19. And so Mr. Weiler came in one day and called me into his office, and I thought, all right, good things are going to start happening. Here we go. And the first question out of his mouth was, why'd you drop out of school? And I'm like, so right away, internally, I'm like, well, this is not the direction I'm hoping this goes.
I was coming out of here a sales manager.
Yeah, I might. Well, I want to become a GM. I want to do all this. I had by the way, back then, I didn't even, the thought of owning a dealership never crossed my mind. So, I just wanted to be a GM. I'm telling him all this. And he starts going into, well, I'll never forget this line. He goes, in 10 years, when I'm looking at you to potentially run one of my stores. And from that moment forward, I kind of zoned out. And the reason I zoned out is I'm thinking to myself, I didn't drop out of school to wait 10 years. If I knew it was going to take 10 years and it was an age requirement, I stayed in school and had fun. So, I dropped out to get this ball rolling. Right. And I look back and it's entitled and naive and stupid, immature to think I was ready, not to run a store, but to elevate even up to sales manager or anything like that. At that time was just ridiculous. But in my mind, I thought I could, and I thought I should. I was doing well enough. I was probably in the top 5%. I wasn't doing the numbers anywhere close to what my dad was doing. So internally, I didn't feel like I was doing well, but I'm comparing myself to others and I'm thinking, well, I can do this. And so eventually, we started doing some sale events, and I had a friend, the L and J&L Marketing, Pat Luck, who talked me into starting J&L Marketing. And, I did that. I left the Weiler organization at 22 and started J&L Marketing at 22. That grew really well. That allowed me to buy the first dealership. I think I was 35, 36 when I bought Johnson City Honda, 37 when we bought Cape Girardeau Honda, and then 42 when we bought West County Honda. So we've got the 3 Honda dealerships now. So I've kind of gotten to the end in terms of where I thought I would be or eventually be in the dealer world, but I did it complete reverse fashion than I originally had planned.
Yeah. That's I remember when I first started as an advisor, which I started as an advisor because I couldn't be a tech anymore because they didn't want me to work on cars anymore. And
is that from the customer, the client, or is that from the management in the store?
Yeah, well, I think the management in the store was reflecting the clients that were coming back after I worked on their cars. And it turned out to be a good choice. So as I became an advisor, I quickly realized that I really enjoyed what I was doing, but I also had that naivete you talked about to think like, I can be the best at this. I am the best at this. And just being pretty arrogant right up front about how good I felt I was. And man, it's now 30 something years later and I'm still learning how to be better at things. It's, there's a good and a bad side to that, right? You've got to have some of that confidence to move you forward and to get yourself to take some chances. But on the other side of that, you've got to have the humbleness to be able to listen to people like like Jeff Weiler tell you, hey, You should have stayed in school.
Yeah. Well, he became a great client. So, that it
Good.
all worked out well in the end. So,
and good for your friend for convincing you to start a marketing company with him. That's
correct.
That was a good choice there. So on the marketing side of things, I know most of what you do is still with automotive, but it's certainly changed.
Actually, we've, in the last few years, we've got into a lot of the digital side has really made it easy. We didn't come into these other verticals with the limiting beliefs we had when we were doing just sale events that involved a lot of direct mail and email and landing pages for auto.
Sure.
When we got into digital, it became a digital agency and did a lot of digital advertising, specifically the paid search, the display, the paid social. We realized quickly that we excel in very competitive markets. So auto is probably one of the most competitive markets, according to Google.
Sure.
But home services, food and beverage, even we do a lot of political stuff, agricultural. We've got some really big clients, and we've done well in other verticals so auto is still a core focus, but we're quickly,
Yeah, that's awesome. And
moving into others.
Yeah, and it's great that the digital world has allowed you the ability to move vertically, right, like that through other industries.
I think auto has helped us in the other industries, quite honestly.
From what you learned in marketing for them?
Yeah, it's just so competitive.
Yeah.
So to satisfy the eyes of an OEM or a dealer, to be able to take not the similar strategy, but the same competitiveness from us and the understanding that, hey, we've got to go above and beyond. Quite honestly, the other industries have been easy in comparison. So
yeah, that's
I can help prepare us.
Yeah, I can understand that. Certainly, if you're going to cut your teeth somewhere, automotive is a great place to do it because
That's
it is a
you will get
you will get chewed up, right?
Yeah, you get punched in the nose often, and so you got to be able to keep getting up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you obviously don't get to the places you are in your life right now without having great leadership ability, and to be able to convey a vision onto your team and get them to buy into that and go along with you. What are some of the things that you do to get your team bought in and to keep them bought in?
I'm going to go back to when I'm going to go back to when I guess I was just extremely involved, not just on a work side, but I can remember, back in the 90s and early 2000s as we were growing and we were a newer company. I mean, it was really a family atmosphere. It was really, I was involved with everybody just as much personally as I was professionally. And so the relationships that I had formed with people made that easy because we all wanted to work together to help each other. It was this natural. Back then I didn't know. It was just natural for me, because we were a smaller company, to have these working relationships and then eventually personal relationships with everybody on the team. And so it was very easy to create a culture that was, for the greater good.
That's it's interesting to hear that because obviously for a long time, right, people were always talking about how, you as the leader, the manager, they didn't call us leaders back then, right? You were manager or you were the owner, whatever it was. But you didn't have that relationship with the employees, right? You kept that. There was that wall there, that separation. And it's great that you had that to begin with. And now, right, we come around to a point where that's encouraged, right? Get to know your team, understand what's going on with their lives and things.
Yeah. And I think, as you grow and all of a sudden policies have to be put in place because, you need consistency. Give you an example. When you're dealing with an OEM and they're sold on a specific campaign or product of yours and a level of service, it's important that everyone on your sales team communicates with all their area managers in a very similar fashion. And that doesn't mean we discourage people from being themselves and having their own personality, but certain things have to be non-negotiable and zero tolerance. So as you grow, that style and that personal connection, some of the struggles that we learned our way through was that can also come back on you a little bit at times. And I went through a pretty big learning curve as we transitioned into that and had the growth that we had.
Yeah. And within Quantum 5, one of the co-founders, Ken Herforth, that's one of the big things that he preaches is that there has to be play involved in work.
Yes.
Right. And so, but you also have to have that. You have to have that line, right? There's play, yep. But we also need to realize that we've got certain things that have to get done, deadlines that have to get met. But that doesn't mean that we can't have fun and can't understand each other better.
Yeah, and back then, I didn't know anything about continuous improvement and Kaizen and processes and all this other stuff. I just knew the work had to get done and had to get done on time. And there was a stretch where we had very loyal people on the team, and some of them were here till 2-3 in the morning.
Wow.
And that was on me. And I can remember, I knew one of our operating managers for a long time. He's retired now, but he was with us well over 20 years. Jose Zabanet. Our president's Jamil. It's his son, actually.
Oh, wow.
The apple does not fall far from that tree.
Excellent.
And, but Jose was a master at the Kaizen process, continuous improvement. And I remember thinking, man, we've got to do something. And so he was probably our first big time hire in terms of big salary and in terms of responsibility and probably hiring from the outside in terms of being an executive on the team. And he did an incredible job taking that off my plate. And so it freed me up to focus on sales and marketing while he handled operations and just was streamlined our processes, our quality improvement. We became much more professional. Our team got to go home on time. and so, it was a big transition for us, and it helped us a lot of ways, but it also taught me, it's important that you look at where you're weak, and you probably bring on, you want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And I know that's cliche to say, but you want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And more importantly, bring a level of knowledge and experience and expertise in areas that you lack. And you want to do that without sacrificing the culture. I've interviewed on our podcast, David Spizak, and one thing he has said that I absolutely love, he goes, your culture is impacted by every hire. And if they're not positively impacting your culture, if it's net neutral or below, even net neutral, they are negatively impacting your culture.
Wow.
And he goes, so he only tried to bring in people that he felt would lift the culture and build it. And so Jose did that, fit that to a T. His team loved him. He was an incredible leader as well. And so that worked out well for us.
Yeah. So how and I think I know the answer to this, but how important do you feel it is in a business for you to be focused on if you're the head of the business, bringing somebody in that complements your weaknesses, right? That's you've got to look internally to understand what your weaknesses are and accept that that's what they are. And then to be strong enough to bring somebody in who can work opposite those weaknesses to make the organization stronger.
Well, it's great. And then when they come in and do a good job and trust is built, it elevates it even further. Um, I think it's critical because there's very few people that lean into something that they're not good at. Mm-hmm. Most people, if they're not good at something, shy away from it, put it on the back burner. And when you think about something in this example that I've given, operations, well, that's where you're going to have mistakes made that impact clients. When you're a marketing agency or any organization, it doesn't matter. When things impact clients, it also impacts your sales team. It impacts morale. It impacts culture. So this is a downward spiral that can happen. So I think I can't imagine going through this. If I had done this over again, that hire would have happened probably 5 years earlier. I don't know if we would have got him 5 years earlier, but I would have tried.
Yeah. My guess is that if you ask most leaders who have brought somebody on like that, that's probably the answer, right?
Yeah, because things get shoved underneath the rug, and it's something that can create a culture that's unwanted.
Yeah. I think it's interesting what you said, what David Spizak said about even if that next hire is culture neutral, that it's still affecting you negatively. That's really putting a massive spotlight on how important it is to constantly evolve your culture.
That's right.
And to make sure that doesn't happen enough, right? When companies are hiring people that they're looking at how it will affect their culture. They're more looking at how it's going to affect metrics, right?
It's funny. We have this debate all the time with different business leaders. As a CEO or a president or whoever, can we create a culture that we want? And a lot of people think creating a culture or a positive culture means bringing in ping pong tables and pool tables and all that type of stuff. And I think what creates a great culture is professional accountability. Mm-hmm. I think having discussions about career paths. I think making sure everyone completely understands the vision and the mission that we're all on and getting buy-in. And then as people start experiencing the win and the excitement that comes from this momentum that builds, then all of a sudden, all that other stuff, the fluff, makes more sense. Because I got news for you. If you don't have the right culture, you can bring in ping pong tables, you can bring in pool tables. No one plays them.
Right.
No one wants to do. It's just taking up office space at that point. Mm-hmm. That's not you can't create a culture that way. I think the culture has to come from winning, mm-hmm. from growth and from momentum and doing it the right way. And then all the other stuff is just added fun.
Yeah, I would agree. And if I can relate this back to family life for people, right? The people who talk about having that great childhood and the family that was really supportive and everything, that those families that had, call it culture in a family, but that great family tie together, it's never a family who they were like, oh, my parents let me do whatever I want, right? You talked about accountability as being one of the number one things. It's never that family, right? Where they were like, everything was so great. And man, I learned so much and I was so prepared for life, because it started with accountability from their parents, right? It didn't start with them putting a ping pong table in their room and letting them do whatever they wanted.
That's correct.
So it's accountability sometimes gets a bad rap, and maybe for the not so well performing employee, they don't like the word accountability, but it's important.
I think it's and let me tell you, I think you have to lead differently today a little bit, and I think that's more of a generational type of thing. I don't mm-hmm. think, I grew up in an era, the people that led me, I mean, if you saw the tactics and the yelling and very thick skin. And so that's what I knew early on. And that's evolved, obviously.
Yeah.
It has to today. That you're not going to get away with that. You're not going to retain anybody that way. But right. you know, I guess where I was going with this is, I've completely lost my train of thought with that. It got me. I got onto another thought. What did you just say right before that? Let me get back on
how
that track.
important how important accountability was.
Yeah. So I saw a pretty good meme on social media today. It was Nick Saban, and he said, a lot of times, accountability can be mistook for aggression, but usually by the unmotivated.
That is perfect.
Or passion. It was passion. Yeah. Don't this. That was what it was. But quite honestly, when we're a lot of times when we're holding people accountable, like I can get very passionate. Passion is one of our core values in our company. I can be very passionate when I talk. To the unmotivated person, that could come across as aggressive.
Sure.
And I have no intent on it being, aggressive at all. I'm just very passionate about if I get on a topic of selling or how something could be done better, or I get going, and I think that, that can be mistaken sometimes.
Yeah. I can, as an example, a direct example of that from you. The first time that I met you was at Ted Ng's first roundtable in that little conference room in New York. And when he went around the table and everybody spoke, when you spoke, one of the things that I said to Ted after that was, wow, Scott Joseph is a really passionate guy. But you're right. That could have been taken as aggression from some people, the way you spoke.
I look at that. That's on my Instagram and one of my marketing tips thing, that video, because that was recorded. I look at that and I'm like, oh gosh, no wonder people think it's aggressive. That looks awful.
That was a tough room. That was a tough room. Man.
Yeah.
It was really hot and really tight in there, but I look back on that and I think of the people that were in that room and I'm like, wow, there was a lot of very cool people that I met that day. And
I did too.
I did not take it as aggression. I took it as passion, what you said. So
yeah,
but yeah, to the unmotivated though, almost anything can be looked at as aggression, right?
Yeah. And that's true. And let's face it. I mean, not everybody on our teams are motivated the way we want to be. Everyone says they're motivated when they interview, and I think most people go into a new job wanting to do well.
Yes.
But the reality is there are certain people that aren't willing to do what it takes to do a great job, aren't willing to really be all in. And some people only want to check, right? It's an unmotivated individual. And so, it's our job to try and weed those out and hire better and onboard better and not allow that to happen.
Sure. And you've got to be able to transfer that motivation into some passion at some point, right? Motivation is fleeting. You can get motivated. I can get motivated about losing 10 pounds today, and I can be super motivated about that. Come the end of the day when I'm hungry, I don't really care about that 10 pounds. So
I'm going to quote David Spizak on this one too. I've learned so much from him. I quote him all the time. He goes, "It's easy to climb Mount Everest. It's a lot harder to live there." In other words, anybody can get up there one time. It's hard to stay and live up there. That's a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what motivation is, right?
That's right.
Anybody can go and Tony Robbins, I think he's absolutely awesome. He's an incredible guy that has a lot of tools that will help you in your life. But to just watch a 5-minute segment of him jumping around on stage, it'll get you going, but it's not going to change anything. That's going to be gone shortly. You've got to actually transfer that motivation into something else.
Correct.
So you mentioned being better at onboarding on the Fixed Ops Mastermind this past week. That's what we talked about, was onboarding. It's one of the things that's kind of lacking in maybe in other industries too, but obviously I'm immersed in automotive. In automotive, it's you get the HR kind of onboarding, right? You take your harassment training, you understand the OSHA regulations, you understand what the 401k is and whether there's a match, and when payday is, all that kind of stuff. But to really get into how you're going to not get people to be a net neutral on your culture zone, right? You've got to have some onboarding that kind of takes them through that history of Scott Joseph, right? Of how J&L Marketing started, and here's where we came from. Here's what we stand for. This is our expectations past. Yes, you got to take care of customers. It's more than that, right? And
That's right.
So how important do you think having a real onboarding experience is?
I think it's critical. And I also think I don't think auto is the only, I would be willing to bet you that there isn't a company out there that does this extremely well. The only time you hear of an employee talk about how good the onboarding process is, it's probably because they left a job or a company or two that never did it to begin with. Mm-hmm. And so they have no way to compare it to anything.
Yeah.
And so I look at it this way. One of the things that I'm big on is, and I'm going to bring this up because I think it fits both ways, but one of the things that I believe a business can grow, see exponential growth is through a referral system, right? So to have a successful referral system, you've got to know who you are as a business, what you are as a business. What do you stand for? Why do you do the things you do? Who are your potential clients? Who are your current clients and all that? And so, and you got to be able to clearly articulate what that is, so people want to refer people to you. But the easiest way to find out and improve a referral process is to ask your clients who refer people, why did you refer them to us? Mm. And you ask enough people of that, and you're going to start hearing common things. And so I would ask people, what is it that you liked about our onboarding? Why did you like it? Where can it be improved? And I think if we as leaders and managers sometimes sit back and think, oh, this would be a good idea. Let's do this, and we'll do this, and then we'll walk them through. And then, hey, John over here will take them to lunch. And then, Sarah can take them the next day, and all that's good. And I'm not saying those are bad ideas.
Yep.
But why aren't we asking the people that are new, after they've gone through the onboarding, what really worked well, what didn't, right, and what was missing? Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't be just limited to our own business either. I think those are things when you hear, wow, I started a new thing, they really did a great onboarding with me, or I feel so welcome. Why? What was it that made you feel that way? And I think that's how we can improve that onboarding process in any vertical.
Yeah. Be more inquisitive about everything in your life, right? But if you're
Correct.
trying to learn more about certain things, then when you hear somebody talking, either positively or negatively about something, to go further with those questions, right? Tell me more about why it was great.
You mentioned at the very beginning, our event we did with Business Bourbon and Cigars.
Yes. And
the name probably creates a little bit of this, but we're going to fix that on this next one. But a lot of times the topics that we have, whether it's client retention or, increasing conquest business and new business growth that way, whatever it might be, at some point, whatever solutions we come up with, whatever new breakthroughs we're trying to create, it somewhat touches on the client experience at some point. Mm-hmm. Creating a better client experience, right? And I sat back and I said, women represent over 50% of the decisions and probably influence a much higher percentage. And then, I don't have the exact numbers, but I and you might know this. What's the percentage of people that come through the service drive, women and men? Do you know?
I don't think I know that exact number, but I would tell you just from personal experience, I would say it's probably pretty close to 65 to 70% women.
Yeah, I would think that too. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, and I'm sitting here and I told him, I said, going just what I just said about the onboarding. We sit back in rooms and we come up with, this is a great idea. But I said, we're sitting here talking about improving client experience and we're coming up with these great ideas. And we only have a handful of women in the room contributing to the ideas. And they're the ones that we're trying to create. They're the majority of the people we're trying to create the experience for.
Right.
And so that's something we're going to drastically fix in the next one and improve on.
Awesome.
And I think, but it goes along that same, along that same line. Right. Yep. And so, being more, I guess, making sure you're getting, I just believe there's so many people, everybody's got what we call superpower. Everyone comes to the table with a unique skill. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to listen more, ask better questions, right. To find better solutions and breakthroughs.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely incredible that that you're still looking at that and having those realizations and being willing to act on those. It's certainly an industry where we have been plagued by the boys club kind of thing. Even though, if we were smarter people, Scott, we would have figured this out decades ago. That it's the women who are coming into the dealership and the women who are influencing the decisions, and we probably should have molded the business to take care of them much better. It's finally
we need more
around.
women. We need more women drinking bourbon and smoking cigars, and then the problem is solved. No, it's funny because people come to me and they go, do I have to drink? I don't drink bourbon. I don't smoke cigars. I'm like, it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
I said, the number one requirement is that you're good in business.
Right.
As long as you can check a box.
Yeah. The business is in big letters, right? It's bourbon and cigars in little letters. So.
That's correct.
Yeah. I heard some incredible things from Dave O'Brien. Love the setup. Obviously, you're on the Fixed Ops Mastermind podcast. I'm a believer in the Mastermind premise that Napoleon Hill laid out, and he laid it out in a book that sold millions, but it was there before. The Knights of the Round Table was a mastermind. So
that should be everybody. That should be a book. Anyone that's in business, that should be a requirement.
Absolutely.
That they read that book.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My son, who's about to turn 16, as I gave him one of the modern versions, a little easier to read. And I gave him that probably 3 years ago. And 2 months ago, he finally started reading it. So it's an incredible book that can change your life if you take a few lessons out of it.
Correct.
And so I started that thought with Dave O'Brien, just telling some incredible stories about the things that happened at that event. And it's amazing what happens when you put some people in the room. I was going to say smart people, but it doesn't even have to be smart people, right? Just you put some people in a room and get their minds going. The ideas that come out of that would never have come out of any one of those individuals is absolutely amazing.
We had some ideas that came. We just had our third one. Fourth one will be in September, but this was now that we've had people that have been there 3 times and they know the process. Mm-hmm. And as people get more comfortable with each other and they open up and they've always been committed, but they're more,
trusting.
They share more, right? Yeah. And they just open up more. Mm-hmm. They're more willing to not only give ideas, but to accept some. And I'll tell you what, we had some really, I love outrageous ideas.
Yeah.
Because it's the outrageous idea that eventually gets its work through. You work your way through that, through some trial and error and stuff like that. That's where the breakthroughs come. Mm-hmm. And so, while I want incremental gains and small little improvements, I don't focus my time and energy there. I focus on breakthroughs because I think that's where real wealth is built.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the great things about that type of event, right? Or that type of forum where that's accepted. That's right. Sometimes sitting inside a dealership, you come up with some outrageous ideas and they look at you like, yeah, that's good. Let's figure out how to get these 30 appointments done today instead. You know, and you're
Exactly.
right. Like some of the outrageous ideas that Star Trek put out there, however many years ago, and now things that are real in life. Right.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to be the dreamer out there. And
I was running late today, and literally I didn't drive here. I transported here.
Excellent. You know, hook me up with
that's
that.
That's when we all need to sell our dealerships, when that technology comes.
Yeah, exactly. That's when your maintenance is gone.
That's right.
Scott, this has been an awesome conversation. I know everybody's going to enjoy it. If people want to reach out to you or to hire the services of J&L Marketing, what's the best way to go about it?
Well, my email, sjoseph, so that's Joseph, S as in Scott, Joseph, at J, the word J and L as in Larry, marketing.com, JNLmarketing.com. That's the easiest way. But really, the easiest way to reach me, I am all over LinkedIn.
Yes,
I'm all over Instagram. I'm on Clubhouse. So, you know, my IG, my Instagram is Scott T. Joseph. At Scott T. Joseph. You can find me there and direct message me there. Scott Joseph on LinkedIn. You can message me there. Sometimes those messages get a little bogged down. It might take about a day to get back, but I'm really good about that. And quite honestly, I actually respond quicker there than I probably do email.
Yeah.
So
excellent. Good stuff. Well, thank you again for being with us. We're grateful for your time. Take care.
Thank you, Dave, man. I always enjoy. And by the way, congratulations on joining the Quantum 5 team. David's building something very special there. I don't want to say everything he touches he was born with a golden spoon, but he's obviously has a very innovative and good eye for when it comes to ideas.
Yeah,
so.
I'm happy to be there. Grateful to be there and have the opportunity to begin something new within this industry that can really make an impact.
Oh, have a huge impact. And you know, I was talking to him, and this is needed in every vertical.
Right.
So it's good that he starts where he's starting, because it's really needed there. But this is every vertical needs this.
Yeah.
So I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My wife's a second grade teacher, and when I started talking to her about this was before I even accepted the job, I started talking to her about what they're doing, and she's like, "I need this in the classroom."
Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, it is a great idea.
Yeah.
Not an idea, not a concept. It's an actual great system you guys have created.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Alrighty.
Yep.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.